Most people don't fail because they lack discipline, talent, or motivation. Guys, they fail because they never learned how to protect their time. Over the last few months, my stress got so bad it started affecting my health. I was getting nauseated, I was exhausted, and I was constantly overwhelmed. And it wasn't because I was doing too much. Honestly, it was because I wasn't setting boundaries. If you feel burned out or resentful or constantly behind on your goals or even guilty every time you say no to people, this episode is for you. Today, I'm breaking down what boundaries actually are, why they're essential for your goals and your work, your relationships, and how to start setting them without destroying yourself or your relationships with the people you love. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Andrea Pearson Show. My name is Andrea, and this episode is a big one. I'm actually kind of nervous about it because it's a topic that is I'm actually pretty sensitive about because it's something I've struggled with pretty much my whole life. And that is boundaries. And I'm going to be talking about boundaries for your goals, your work life, your family, vision, like basically where you want to end up and the sorts of things that might stop you from getting there. And like usually I keep feeling things around with a little things around for me to play with. Anyway, so a quick disclaimer, guys, I am not a therapist. I'm sharing my thoughts on the topic, the things that I've read from books, listening to lots of podcasts, and experiences from my own life. And I have to give that disclaimer ahead of time because I don't want you guys to take what I say as gospel salt, doctrine salt, whatever, gospel doctrine. Take it with a grain of salt. um, because I mean, this stuff is important, but you're going to need to figure this out for yourself. And I'm hoping that, like I said in my last episode, my goal is to empower people. It is to be a catalyst for your growth and your success. And I can't do that properly, I don't feel, without talking about boundaries because they have been such an impediment in my own journey to success. Anyway, why do boundaries matter for personal success and emotional health? There's a quote on the wall in my bathroom that I've had since before I even had kids. And because I say that because I've got a quote that's about, one that is about children as well. But the first one is, if you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes a sacrifice. And I have no idea who said it. It's like a little thing I got from Hobby Lobby many, many years ago. And absolutely love that. If you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice. If you want, if I want emotional health, I must make it a priority, and that means setting boundaries. I mentioned in my last episode that I've been incredibly stressed lately, so much where my appetite has drastically gone away, and I've been very nauseated most days, every single day. As of right now, I still haven't had a solid meal since, let's see, it is currently Monday. I haven't had a solid meal since Thursday. I've been eating little bits here and there. I've had some Ritz crackers today, and I just recognized that over the last little while, my emotional health has taken a nosedive because I wasn't setting good boundaries around my quiet time, around my journal time, scripture study time, exercise, things like that. The sorts of things that I know keep me emotionally healthy. I was not keeping those things sacred. I was not protecting them because I struggle with boundaries. And today I was like, no more. I cannot continue living this way. And my husband's like, finally, because my husband, he's got phenomenal boundaries. I don't know how he has them, but he has really great boundaries. Anyway, so we cannot become successful if we are constantly sacrificing for other people. And as Dr. John Deloney says, and by the way, I'm a huge fan of Dr. John Deloney. I will mention him off and on in my podcast because he's great. He says choose guilt over resentment. Saying no makes us feel guilty. But isn't it better than waking up 20 years down the road full of resentment that we still have not accomplished our goals and dreams, that our lives still haven't really gone anywhere? So choose guilt over resentment. Choose to feel guilty for saying no to all those opportunities or all those requests for your help, and and choose to feel guilt instead of resentment, and choose to feel bad because otherwise you would resent them. You'd resent those people. You'd resent yourself. You would resent your work. You'd resent anything that did not get in the way of your progress on the things that matter most to you, your values. The time will pass anyway, right? So protect your time. Okay, so speaking of time, healthy boundaries protect your time, your energy, goals, and your relationships. A relationship where one person is constantly giving and the other person is constantly taking is not a relationship. A healthy relationship isn't one where one person dictates all the decisions and actions and doesn't allow anyone else to make choices without a massive dose of guilt. Those sorts of relationships can actually be very toxic. It might take a while, but setting boundaries is a must to protect the things you value most. And you can actually teach other people if they have a sincere desire to have a relationship, a real relationship with you. You can teach them how to respect your boundaries. And I've experienced that in my own life, and it's taken 3.5 years of very, very tough times for the people involved to respect my boundaries. And they still don't fully, but they are getting so much better, and I love them so much for trying. Okay, so most people don't fail from lack of ability, they fell from lack of boundaries. If we aren't meeting our goals, we need to take a look at what's going on in our lives. Are we not creating space for the success that we need? Are we constantly living in a lack universe? Not enough time, not enough money? These things will sap our creative energy so quickly. If you constantly say, I don't have enough time, you are somebody who struggles with boundaries because when you have boundaries, you make time for the things that are most important because you can say no to the things that aren't as important. If we lack boundaries, we will eventually lack success. I feel that so deeply, guys, again, because I'm in my 40s and I have struggled with boundaries my whole life. And I'm finally setting boundaries like, guys, I'm going to do my podcast and I'm going to start it now. I'm not waiting any longer. So here we are restarting my podcast. Okay. So, what are boundaries? Rules, they are rules that you create that teach others how to treat you. And as I said, I'm in my 40s and I'm still learning how to do this. I wish I could bottle up my husband and sell his personality. That man holds firm to his boundaries and he always has. Not only that, but he comes from a family who respects boundaries. So, just as a quick aside, I still remember the first time I told my mother-in-law no. She kept telling me it doesn't matter. You can say no, you can say no, but I didn't fully believe her until I was like, you know what? I really don't like that sweater. I really don't want to take it. Like, but she's giving me all these other clothes that I don't like, and I just take it and then I never wear it, or I wear it only when she's around. And I just feel weird, and I don't want to keep taking all this stuff because I don't want more stuff. And so I finally was like, you know what? Actually, I don't really want the sweater. I don't really like it. And you want to know what? She was like, okay, that's fine. And I was like, what the heck? What? Who are you? Oh my gosh. She totally meant it. She respects other people's boundaries. I have never felt shame or guilt or even a bit of manipulation from my husband or my in-laws when I've said no to something. And guys, it is such a breath of fresh air. And it's a trait I'm striving to perfect, striving to learn in many cases. But unfortunately, I don't always know because, I don't have boundaries. I wasn't raised with boundaries. I don't always know when I'm pushing people on their boundaries, but I really am learning and I'm trying to learn. Okay, so boundaries are personal limits based on your values and priorities. What do you value most in life? We're going to talk about this in a future episode, I promise, because values are super, super important. And I really had the rug ripped out from underneath my feet this past summer when it came to my values. I'm like, all my life I thought I was struggling. All my life, all my adult life, I'm like, I'm lazy. I'm lazy. I'm not meeting my goals. But finally recognized this summer that my values I had values that were more important than my desires and my dreams and my goals. And boundaries help you set limits. They help you set limits to protect your values and priorities. Anyway, so understanding now what you want and need in life will help you decide what you need to protect. So boundaries can be physical, emotional, time-based, spiritual, digital, financial. Do you spend too much time on screens? Do you need to set better boundaries with yourself when it comes to that sort of stuff? Are you allowing yourself time to rest and time to heal emotionally? Are you allowing yourself time to strengthen yourself spiritually or physically? Are you giving yourself these sorts of times? If not, then you might be struggling with boundaries. Boundaries determine what is okay and what isn't. They help you and others navigate complex and difficult situations. Okay, so why do you need boundaries for your goals and dreams? And I've kind of talked about this already a little bit, but they protect your productivity because you've set aside time for that thing, that goal, that dream. And when you respect that time, you are more productive. You actually accomplish things faster. Gosh, imagine that. Boundaries protect the energy required for creativity because you're not constantly running around like a chicken with its head cut off trying to fulfill other people's needs. And you're always saying yes, saying yes, saying yes. And so you burn out and you don't have the energy that you need for your creativity. Without boundaries, goals get pushed aside for other people's priorities because other people's priorities will always trump yours if you do not have boundaries. You cannot build something meaningful without focus. And I've talked about focus a lot. It's one of my biggest things. I really, really believe you cannot be fully successful in life if you do not master focus or do not actually learn, or not necessarily master, but do not learn how to focus. And focus is impossible if you don't have boundaries. Because if you don't guard your goals, no one else will. And then the other thing is people will unintentionally pull you into their agenda, and sometimes they'll intentionally pull you into their agenda. I actually, one of the things I love, I've got all these little things. These are what quotes that I'm going to read to you guys. But boundaries, when to say yes, when to say no, to take control of your life by Dr. Henry Cloud. I love this man. He is like one of those anomalies in the Christian world where he's like, guys, it's actually biblical to have boundaries. So I'm going to be reading a bunch of his quotes, not the religious ones, just the ones that are just like, holy cow. And his first quote that I wanted to read is this one right here, okay? This is on page 43 of his book. Top of page 43. It says, setting boundaries inevitably involves taking responsibility for your choices. You are the one who makes them. You are the one who must live with their consequences. And you are the one who may be keeping yourself from making the choices you could be happy with. And so, like I said, if you don't guard your goals and your dreams and your visions, nobody else will. And honestly, you are the one who made your choices. You chose to say yes. If you are not guarding your dreams, your goals, your visions, then you have nobody else to blame but yourself. Like, you have to take responsibility for your choices. And if this doesn't feel comfortable to you, and if you're rejecting this, then you're probably struggling with boundaries, or you were raised in a situation where boundaries were an issue, where you couldn't have your own boundaries, where you didn't know where you started and other people begin. Sorry, where you ended and other people begin. Setting boundaries inevitably involves taking responsibility for your choices. You are the one who makes them. You are the one who must live with their consequences, and you are the one who may be keeping yourself from making the choices you could be happy with. So basically, it's taking responsibility and not playing the victim card. If you are not making your goals and dreams a reality, and you're like, oh, it's somebody else's fault and it's somebody else's schedule, and it's like you're being a victim. And yes, and this is coming from somebody who's had so many surgeries I can't even count. Like, I cannot count the number of surgeries I've had. I've had four miscarriages, three miscarriages. We lost twins in one of them. I've had a lot of health issues. I've had C-sections and children with a lot of issues, and I've tried so hard to push forward, and I understand how difficult it is when things stop you from making your goals, but ultimately it is your responsibility, and there are things outside of your control. But guys, oh my goodness, I met with a therapist in when around the time of the miscarriage. Like, I was just full of anxiety and panic when we lost the twins, and I went and saw a special therapist who would meet with me for 2 to 3 hours once a week. And she had me she told me a story about this guy who was born, sorry, not born. He got attacked by a shark. I can't remember. Maybe he was born or attacked. I can't remember. But like, he ended up losing his legs and one arm or both of his arms, and the guy still was able to go out and make his goals and meet his dreams, meet his goals and make his dreams happen. He made things happen, and he took control of his life, and he took responsibility. And yes, things were awful. And I have another friend who has MS, and her MS is not great, but you know what she's doing? She's not letting it slow her down. So bad things happen to good people, and you still need to be able to make room for your goals and your dreams, even if your life is not going how you expected it to. Take responsibility for your choices. Okay, so why we need boundaries with work. Work will always expand to fill the space available. And they don't respect your boundaries. If they're going, like, they often reward boundaryless behavior, like overtime and perfectionism and putting things in where you just like continually filling other people's well, or filling the well of your roles and your responsibilities without replacing your own water. So without boundaries at work, burnout is guaranteed. And boundaries, especially at work, they teach others how they what they can expect from you and how much they can expect from you. And honestly, like, this is one of the problems that a lot of corporate jobs, corporate America, corporate world has a problem with. When somebody is really good at their job, they tend to reward that person with more of their job instead of rewarding them in another way. And that leads to burnout. And if you're the person who does such a good job and they reward you with more work, you need to set boundaries and say, guys, you are pushing me beyond what's the word? What is plausible to expect from somebody? What is realistic to expect from somebody? So set boundaries with your work. And boundaries will actually prevent you from experiencing resentment towards clients, employers, coworkers, etc. Okay, boundaries with family. Oh my goodness. This one's a near and dear to my heart. Um, Things get really murky when family is involved. And if you were raised in a family that doesn't have boundaries, it may take you many years to recognize that it's not a healthy way to live. It's not a healthy way to raise your own kids. And this is for me, like it took me a long time to recognize that there are certain things that I did not need to be passing down to my kids that I was taught. So some signs that you were raised in a family with no boundaries, and if these ring true to you, I hope that it will help you reevaluate the way you're living your life and reevaluate the way you're raising your kids and treating people around you, okay? Okay, so number one, you weren't allowed privacy. No knocking before entering rooms. People read your messages or your journals. Like people would ask you questions and you weren't allowed to say, I don't want to answer that. Um, and basically, you learned access was expected, not earned. Okay, so number two, saying no wasn't an option because I said so was the end of the discussion. Or you were punished for asserting yourself, or your feelings weren't considered, or you learned that your wants don't matter. Number three, family members overshared. Adult problems were discussed with kids. Marriage issues between your parents or whoever were dumped on you. And too much emotional intimacy was expected from the children. Basically became the emotional container. So they put on you their happiness or their sadness or whatever. And that's actually the next point. Number four, you felt responsible for other people's emotions, making mom happy, keeping dad calm. You were constantly walking on eggshells. You learned to manage the feelings for other people. That's definitely something that I struggled with. I was the peacekeeper. I was the sunshine child. I was the one who was constantly happy, and I didn't learn that I was a high drive on the disc profile personality test until like just a couple of years ago actually. And I honestly didn't learn until college that I had this desire to do things for myself. I didn't know that about myself. I was constantly managing other people's feelings, family members, friends, teachers in school. Oh my goodness, guys, I was like really good at keeping people happy. And it's exhausting. It is an exhausting and awful way to live. Okay, number five, people in the home regularly interrupt things, your time, your goals, your activities, your phone calls, your homework. Everything is open access always because they don't respect that you have a boundary. Like when you're on the phone, like they don't respect you, basically. Personal space does not exist. Your bedroom is treated as community property. This is number six, by the way. Food, clothing, and belongings that are yours are open for anyone. Like if you have clothes that you love, you have a sibling that constantly wore them without asking for permission. That is a lack of boundaries. There's no respect for ownership. Number seven, guilt was a common parenting tool. After everything I do for you, dot, 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 you're selfish if you want something else, dot, 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 you owe us, dot, dot, dot. Basically, your emotional needs weren't separate from theirs. Okay. Number eight, emotional reactions were unpredictable. One week something was fine, the next week it's unacceptable. There weren't consistent rules. You learned to over-monitor other people's moods. Okay, number nine, everyone knew everything about everyone. There was no privacy among siblings or adults. There was a constant involvement in each other's choices. There was no sense of individual lives. And this one, ugh, this one's really a big deal to me because it can continue into adulthood as well, where one adult child will tell their parents something that's going on, and their parents will share that with everybody. That is a lack of boundaries. And when one adult child expects that another adult child will tell them everything and they get offended when they don't, like, oh my gosh, I thought I was important to you, I thought that we were in a relationship. Yes, but that doesn't mean you get to know everything. When you're raised in a family that doesn't have boundaries, people expect you to continue sharing everything with them, and it feels like a slap in the face to the person who is used to having that information always shared with them and having that taken away. Okay, so confrontation, this is number 10. Confrontation was either explosive or avoided. So there's no healthy discussions. The problems were ignored or they erupted. There was no modeling of respectful conflict, and as an adult, this often turns into difficulty saying no over a pol and by this I mean as an adult, being raised in a family that does not have boundaries can lead to a difficulty saying no. So again, if you have a hard time saying no, then you probably were raised in a family where boundaries weren't respected or weren't even taught. You tend to over apologize. You have a fear of disappointing people. You over explain yourself. You feel guilt when you're resting, when you're taking a break, when you're taking care of yourself. You feel responsible for other people's feelings. You struggle to recognize your own needs, and you let people drain your time and energy. Okay, so it's like goodness, it's exhausting, right? Like um, boundaries equals rejection, self-care is equals selfish, and individuality equals disloyalty. And that's how unhealthy situations, unhealthy family dynamics, unhealthy relationship dynamics are managed and handled. Creating boundaries with family is so important, and it is one of the hardest places to create boundaries, especially if they have never been there in the past. Families often expect unlimited access. They okay, so the people who and also the people who love you don't always understand your responsibilities or even respect them. They're like you're like, "Well, I'm in charge of this thing at work." And they're like, "Yeah, well, I need you to do this for me." And so they don't respect that and they don't understand that you've got responsibilities. I will share, I'm trying not to share too many personal stories because I come from a really great family. I love my family, but we didn't have boundaries growing up. And I remember a time when I was in college, I was going to a very good university. It's not like, I'll just say it's Brigham Young University. You guys know that, right? Most of you guys know. I went to Brigham Young University, and it is a good university. There's like, it's academically high up there. I mean, obviously, people are gonna be like, it's not Stanford, it's not Harvard. I don't care. BYU is a great university. And finals are very difficult. Finals week is one of the hardest weeks. Anybody who goes to college will understand this. Finals week is really hard. And I was in the middle of finals week and my family had an event and I was like, I cannot come home for it, guys. I absolutely have to take care of my grades and my exams. And one of my siblings who will remain unnamed chewed me out, like sent this huge long text message saying how horrible I was for not coming to the family and how I was going to regret it and how my family's going to regret it and how I didn't value family and how I should put family ahead of college and should put family ahead of everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude. Well, luckily, when it was his term to go to college, he learned how difficult finals week is, and he did end up apologizing at that point. But this is something that has been repeated a million times in my life, even since that moment. Um, anyway, so also emotional closeness doesn't mean unlimited permission. Family, and then the next point, family patterns often reward guilt. So their goal is to guilt you into changing your mind. They'll push and push and push and push until you do what they want. And if you don't, they just throw the fits they throw are epic. They're big. And then they trash you and they guilt you and they say horrible things about you and to you. And this is again, creating boundaries in family is just so important. Do not allow them to treat you this way. And if you need to, exit the situation, right? Okay, so many families confuse closeness with control. They're like, "Oh, we're so close because that person does what I want them to do." And I'm convinced they don't actually have that actual thought process. They don't believe that they are controlling somebody. They don't recognize that them trying to get somebody else, them trying to manipulate somebody into doing what they want is bad. They don't recognize it as a control thing, but they believe that when somebody is not under their control, that they're not close anymore. And they're like, "Oh my goodness, you're you're withdrawing so much and you're not responding to me as much and we just don't have as great of a relationship anymore because I'm no longer allowing you to control me." That's not a relationship, okay? And then last point on this, enabling behavior is cruel behavior. And I'm going to read from Dr. Cloud's book again. This point right here, okay? This is going to hit home for a lot of people, including me. Okay, so the problem comes when someone interrupts the law of sowing and reaping in another's life. A person's drinking or abuse should have consequences for the drinker or the abuser. To rescue people from the natural consequences of their behavior is to render them powerless. This happens a lot with parents and children. Parents often yell and nag instead of allowing their children to reap the natural consequences of their behavior. Parenting with love and limits, with warmth and consequences, produces confident children who have a sense of control over their lives. So basically, if you're rescuing somebody from the choices, the consequences of their choices, you do not have boundaries and you are not allowing them to have freedom to choose. They cannot make a better choice if you are constantly rescuing them. As he says, to rescue people from the natural consequences of their behavior is to render them powerless. The problem comes when someone interrupts the law of sowing and reaping in another's life. A person's drinking or abuse should have consequences for the drinker or the abuser. And oh goodness, I am blunt, I'm straightforward, I'm direct, and I hope that this is not I don't want to hurt anybody. I really want to wake you up because like I said, my goal is to empower you. It is to impact you. It is to inspire you to make better choices for your life so that you can live out your goals and your dreams so that you can become as successful as you need to be and as you want to be. And if you are constantly taking other people's choices away by enabling their behavior and running in to rescue them, you are not allowing yourself the room that you need to grow and to become successful. And you're also not allowing them, you are rendering them powerless. And anyway, yeah, so I feel really strongly about that one, especially because I've seen it over and over when people struggle with boundaries and they enable somebody else, that enabling behavior just continues and it continues and it does not help the person who is being enabled. It does not help them. They do not get better when they are constantly being enabled. Okay, so that applies to friends as well. If you've got a close friend who you are constantly enabling and constantly rescuing, that's a bad thing, guys. That's a big deal. And so we're naturally going to talk about boundaries with friends. Some friendships rely on you always being available, and if you're not constantly available when they come to visit, it bothers them. They're like, it hurts their feelings, like, oh, we used to be such good friends. We used to talk all the time, and that's not a good relationship. Um, the next friendships can be draining when you're the helper. Good relationships go back and forth, both helping, both accepting. And yes, guys, accepting help is a massive sign of healthy boundaries. When you truly need help and truly can't carry something on your own, you asking for help and accepting help is a sign of healthy boundaries. If you can't ask for help, your boundaries are screwed up. They're messed up because part of understanding where your burdens are and where your daily gosh, I couldn't find it in the book, but Dr. Cloud talks about how you have a daily burdens that you need to be able to carry every single day, like the kind of tasks that normal people or healthy individuals are capable of carrying on their own. And when you struggle with carrying your own daily load, then it's a lack of boundary. When you can't function without somebody else's help. I'm going to tell a funny story. I'm going to change the name of the person. So there's a person named Stephanie in my life who, after she had her first child, she was so stressed about changing her child's diaper that she called her husband and asked him to come home from work to change that child's diaper. And that is a daily load thing that taking care of yourself and the people who are under your care is something that you should be able to do on your own. And there comes a point where your daily load becomes too much. And this is where, like, it's something that is so heavy that nobody could carry on their own. So, like, say, for example, if my friend Stephanie had cancer and her husband was working 80 hours a week and she's like dealing with chemotherapy and she just cannot manage to change one more diaper. That's a totally different situation than if she's just doesn't want to do it and she just doesn't feel like doing it that day. And of course, there's depression and stuff like that. But that again comes into the place of asking for help and seeking help for yourself, where you're like, I can't manage my daily load. I need help. And that could come in the form of medication, come in the form of exercise, taking care of yourself, basically. And so having healthy boundaries means when you have a load that is too heavy for you to bear or any person normally to bear, you are able to ask other people for help. And it's not, I mean, it could be hard, right? But you do not struggle asking, do not truly struggle asking for and receiving help. That is a sign that your boundaries are healthy. Being too independent can be a problem, guys. It really can be. Good friends won't need you to sacrifice your well-being to stay connected. And then last, a friendship without boundaries becomes unhealthy quickly. Okay, so how to know if you have good boundaries? You say no without guilt. And I'm going to read another Dr. Cloud quote. It's the green tag this time. Okay. Okay. Let's see. He says, people with poor boundaries struggle with saying no to the control, pressure, demands, and sometimes the real needs of others. They feel that if they say no to someone, they will endanger their relationship with that person, so they passively comply but inwardly resent. Okay, I'm going to read that again. People with people with poor boundaries struggle with saying no to the control, pressure, demands, and sometimes the real needs of others. They feel that if they say no to someone, they will endanger their relationship with that person, so they passively comply but inwardly resent. Sometimes for your health, for your emotional health, your physical health, you need to say no to somebody who actually has a need. And that is one of the hardest times to say no ever. But when you have good boundaries, when you recognize that you cannot give more than you have to give, even if that person truly does have a need, um, I don't remember where I was going with that. Basically, having healthy boundaries means being able to say no, even when somebody has a real need. It means saying no with people to control from other people, to pressure from other people, to demands from other people. Being able to say no is a sign that you have healthy boundaries. And feeling if you say no to someone that you'll endanger your relationship with that person, that is a sign of a lack of healthy boundaries. And as John Deloney always says, choose guilt over resentment. If saying no ruins your relationship, you don't have a relationship. All right. Okay. So how to know if you have good boundaries. And I'm running the clock here. Gosh, guys, I think I've been going for like 30 minutes now. Man, I had no idea I had this much to say. I've got bullet points, right? And I'm just filling in the blanks on them. How to know when you have boundaries. Your schedule reflects your values, not other people's emergencies. You plan your goals first and social things around them. You don't absorb other people's goals or you don't absorb other people's guilt or emotions, and you don't try to control other people's emotions either. Did I mention this? I think I mentioned this. This goes for anger. If someone is constantly angry, it's not your job to soothe them. It's their job to learn how to soothe themselves. I caught myself with my kids saying things like, you'd better clean that up or dad will be angry. Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. Dad's going to be so angry. This is something I am so not proud of. And oh my goodness, when I realized I was doing that, I felt horrible. Okay. It's something I learned from my childhood that it was my responsibility to manage other people's emotions. It is not. And I hate that I was using that with my kids. I really, really hate it. And I've done my absolute best to correct that since recognizing it. Okay, so how to know if you have good boundaries? You rarely feel resentment towards others, and you're able to disagree without anxiety. And guys, I'm getting there. It's a process, but I am getting there. Okay, signs of bad boundaries. And again, I'm going to go through these. I'm going to try to go through these quickly. Constant exhaustion or burnout. If you have nothing left to give, you probably are struggling with boundaries. Resentment towards loved ones. Again, choose guilt over resentments. Feeling guilty when you rest. And I'm going to read another quote from Dr. Cloud on this one. He says, sometimes physically removing yourself from a situation will help maintain boundaries. You can do this to replenish yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually after you've given to your limit. Okay? Or you can remove yourself to get away from danger and put limits on evil. So physically removing yourself from a situation will help maintain boundaries. So like if you're exhausted, if you're tired, if you're in danger, um you should not feel guilty. You should not feel guilty when you take rest. When you rest, you should not feel guilty when you take care of yourself. Okay, so signs about bad boundaries, saying yes and regretting it later, canceling personal plans for someone else, like, hey, I really need you to do this. There's no one else who can do it for me. Guys, service is totally fine, and if there's a true emergency, it is okay to make changes to plans, but not if it's enabling somebody else's bad behavior, and not if you legitimately should not cancel your plans. So I've heard stories of people like where I can't even remember where I heard this story from, probably Dr. John Deloney's podcast, which is phenomenal. You really should look it up. But um somebody called in, I'm positive that's where it was. Somebody called in and was like, hey, I have got this thing going on. I promised my daughter, my like 8-year-old daughter, I'd take her to do this thing, um and we've been planning it for like a year, and my friend had a flat tire and it was like very, very cold weather and it was snowing, and I canceled my thing with my daughter to go and help them. That is a true emergency, but sometimes it's more important to take care of like Planning something for your 8-year-old daughter for a year and then canceling, that's a lack of boundaries. And sometimes, again, sometimes it is okay to make changes to plans when there's an emergency, but there's like you could help that person in the case of this person, the caller, help them find somebody else to go help them so that you're not canceling, dropping everything constantly to fix other people's emergencies. Okay, so feeling anxious before responding to messages, a fear of disappointing others, or allowing others to dictate your schedule. Okay, so what happens if you don't maintain boundaries? You lose your identity in other people's needs. Your goals get delayed or abandoned, which is really, really unfortunate. Your creativity shuts down. Burnout becomes your normal. You resent people you love. You start silently withdrawing from relationships. People stop respecting your time, and your happiness becomes dependent on external approval. Okay, so what happens if you don't respect other people's boundaries? You damage trust, you create resentment, the relationship becomes one-sided, and they may eventually distance themselves from you or remove you completely from their lives. And then also others become defensive or protective around you, protective of themselves and defensive of their situations. Okay, so how to say no without feeling rude. You can use simple phrases like, thanks so much, but I have a commitment to my work right now. Or, sorry, that won't fit my schedule. I'm honored you asked, but I can't at this time. That's not something I'm able to take on. Or, I wish I could, but I can't balance it with my current priorities. Okay, so you don't owe explanations. Sorry, man, I'm clearing my throat a lot. People without boundaries need to know why you can't do something because they want to judge for themselves if your reason is valid or not. Don't feed into their issues by giving explanations. You do not owe them explanations. You really don't. And they don't get to determine whether what you're doing is valuable or not, invaluable or not. I'll give a quick example for this. So I have a client or a previous client. Last year he met his goals and we decided that he didn't need me anymore, right? Which is what happens when you're working with people. Business client, right? I was helping him reach his goals. And his mom passed away and his oldest kids could not attend the funeral and his older brother called him up and was like, "Why can't they go?" And my client was like, "I don't feel comfortable telling you because it's honestly, it shouldn't matter why they can't go." And I was super proud of him because he did not explain. He recognized that his older brother would never accept any explanation anyway. Okay, so short answers are healthier. If you struggle with boundaries, you'll feel the need to explain every no or decision the other person doesn't like. And it honestly it doesn't matter how much you explain to someone who struggles with boundaries, they're never going to take your side or believe what you're doing is right. So don't explain, don't over explain, don't explain at all. Just give them a no. No is a sentence, right? Okay, so how to handle someone who repeatedly breaks your boundaries. Remind them once briefly. If they break it again, make the consequences clear. Follow through with the consequence. Hank Smith is another person I absolutely love when it comes to boundaries. He says, "You have every right to say, I forgive you and I hope the best for you, but you will not be part of my life." Boundaries are crucial to your happiness. Be kind, but be strong. I love that quote. You have every right to say, I forgive you and I hope the best for you, but you will not be part of my life. When somebody is is doing something that is dangerous or toxic, and I wish I had time. I'm not gonna have time to go into it, but John Deloney has an episode where he talks about 5 principles for knowing when to cut someone from your life. Comment below and I will get a link to that video, that episode for you so that you can watch it. But you don't need to cut everybody from your life. There's so many people cutting people for dumb reasons right now. You don't need to do that, okay? Don't emotionally explain, just enforce. And another Hank Smith quote is, don't let someone convince you that you are holding a grudge when you are holding a boundary. Okay, so okay, be proactive. Don't wait for a blow up. Use calm language. No blame. Decide contact availability ahead of time. Don't negotiate your needs and prepare for guilt. It's normal. Expect emotional pushback and recognize that boundaries will actually improve relationships. And I need to read one more quote on this one. Gosh, let's see. Hopefully I have time. Okay, so feelings come from your heart and can tell you the state of your relationships. They can tell you if things are going well or if there's a problem. If you feel close and loving, things are probably going well. If you feel angry, you have a problem that needs to be addressed. But the point is, the feelings are your responsibility. Your feelings are your responsibility, and you must own them and see them as your problem so you can begin to find an answer to whatever issue they are pointing to. Okay? Anyway, okay, so boundaries are not walls, they are pathways. They need to be they need to be permeable and movable when people are when it involves people who you want to be in your life. But when people are toxic or horrible to you, and toxic isn't like a difference of opinions and things like that, you need to be able to set boundaries and have consequences for people who constantly break them. Um, okay, so let's see. I think that's pretty much it, guys. I hope so much that you guys can learn how to set boundaries. If you struggle with boundaries, comment below. Let me know because I want to know other people. There's got to be, I know there are other people out there who are like me and struggle with boundaries. It is something that I have struggled with my whole life, and I'm trying really hard to get better at it. And I knew I needed this to be my next episode because it will help me get better with my own boundaries, right? Anyway, so hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell icon to be alerted to future videos, and comment below. Let me know how things are going for you. Let me know how your boundaries are and what you're struggling with. And also let me know again if you want that link to John Deloney's video for good reasons to cut somebody from your life. Okay? Thank you guys so much. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.